Well, hey, Cam, welcome.
Welcome.
Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Michael, and this is Lynn, and we're just so glad that you're with us today.
That's right. We are so excited. We are CAM, the college-age ministry of Blackhawk Church, and our heart, our desire is to help you get connected to people who you can do life with, and ultimately that you would get connected to Jesus. So we hope that this worship experience will help you as you take your next step in that direction.
All right, with that, let's go ahead and kick it to worship.
When you walk into the room, everything changes. Darkness starts to tremble at the light that you bring. And when you walk into the room, every heart starts burning, and nothing matters more than just to sit here at your feet and worship you. We love you, and we'll never stop. Can't live without you, Jesus. We love you, and we can't get enough. All this is for you, Jesus. Starts to vanish, every hopeless situation ceases to exist. And when you walk into the room, the dead began to rise, 'cause there is resurrection life in all you do. We love you, and we'll never stop. We can't live without you, Jesus. We love you, and we can't get enough. All this is for you, Jesus. So come and consume, God, all we are. We give you permission, our hearts are yours. We want you, we want you. So come and consume, God, all we are. We give you permission, our hearts are yours. We want you, we want you. Come and consume, God, all we are. We give you permission, our hearts are yours. We want you, we want you. We love you, and we'll never stop. We can't live without you, Jesus. We love you, and we can't get enough. All this is for you, Jesus.
My name is Trey, and this is a bit of my story. There's a famous statement, or that was made famous by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. that I love, and that is, darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. And I found that very relevant within my entire life. And I think back to being about 7 years old. I had an older brother named Fred, and we would go riding bikes around our neighborhood every night. And I was afraid of trees. And so one night we were out too late. It got dark, the lights came on, and it was time to go home. But the shortcut meant going underneath trees. And little kid me was not having it. And so I began to cry, and he stopped and he said, "Can you see the stars?" "Yes." "Can you see the street lights in the distance?" "Yes." He said, "No matter how dark and scary it is right now, you're surrounded by a bunch of lights. And all the light that you see is the light of God, and it's here, it's with you, and it's guiding you because Jesus is the light, and that very light lives inside of you." And you know, as we went older, I carried that, and then eventually he ended up passing away in a car accident, which was it was sad, but I always remembered what he taught me. Throughout my life, I wrestled with that. There have been 3 divorces now. You know, my parents divorced when I was 8. I went through another divorce when I was 12 and another when I was 21. And in every situation, no matter how dark it got, how ugly it got, I went back to what he told me, and that was, Jesus is the light. And that light is surrounding you. Even when it's dark, look for the light. And even just to be the light, as the Bible tells us to do. So that leads us to today, right? Life is uncertain on all kinds of levels. And on top of that, I have a sibling who's fighting for his life. And it, you know, is shaping up to be a very long journey. And right now our family is going through a period of darkness, and we don't know what's to come. But, you know, I can think back every time to what my brother said, and that is, Jesus is the light. Carry it through the dark situations. And doing that, I've been able to look back on my life and see how God has been sovereign. Through every dark moment, you know, I think back to, well, I'm glad that happened because it's put me where I am right now, and it's made me who I am right now. And if it wasn't for going through that period of darkness, I wouldn't be able to appreciate God as our strength, and he can be our light whenever we need him.
Well, hey everyone. My name is Michael, and it's great to meet with you guys online for CAM. And I just want to voice that it's been tough for a lot of us. No one knows how to navigate a global pandemic in the fall with school. And I mean, maybe you're in school, maybe you're not. And a lot of you are going to UW right now, and you're navigating what a lockdown looks like. Man, I can't even imagine what you're going through, but I just want to let you know that we're here for you. We're praying for you. Reach out to any of us at CAM. We want to navigate the season with you in any way that we can. Well, for today, before I get into a passage that I want to talk about, I couldn't help but think of a story that happened when I was younger. So I don't know about you. I don't know how you grew up, but my family, there was a couple kids in Washington State. For the summer, it would get really, really hot. So one year when I was younger, my parents thought, man, let's buy our kids this kind of big pool and let's put it in our backyard. And we were stoked. So I don't know if you've seen these pools, but they're like the 4 to 5 foot tall pools. So when you're a little kid, like you would have to like, if you were tall enough, just kind of be on your tippy toes, the water would be on your neck, or you'd have those like sweet little ducky floaties, which I may or may not have had. But we were stoked for this, and my dad never set something up like that before. So I remember him getting all the pool parts out, getting a shovel, and kind of getting some dirt aside and a rake, and he leveled out the area that the pool was going to be on. Laid the pool tarp, filled it with water and all that good stuff. All that took about a couple days. And then I remember the first time we were able to swim in the pool. It was a hot summer day, super refreshing. We played Marco Polo, we played tag, we splashed each other, and we did this day after day after day. But we realized that when we were doing that, that some water would splash out and go down alongside the pool and actually underneath the pool. And the more we did this, the more we splashed, the more the water would go under the pool, and it began to compromise the integrity of the foundation. Until one day, I actually remember it like it was yesterday. We were just kind of horsing around, splashing each other, and then all of a sudden, the pool side split open, and all of us kids were screaming. It was like this tidal wave, and we were pouring out the side of the pool. It was like a yard sale in our backyard, just ducky floaties everywhere. We're just sprawled out. My dad came running out. He's like, "What happened?" And we're like, "We don't know." And he realized, oh man, the water compromised the integrity of the foundation because it was just soil. And so later he had to take everything out, dried it, put concrete on the foundation, set the pool up again, and we were golden. But I couldn't help, when I was thinking about the passage I want to read to you today, I couldn't help thinking about that story because of how relevant it is. And this passage is found in Matthew 7, and it's known as the Sermon on the Mount. And this is actually the last part of the Sermon on the Mount. Verse 24, it says, "Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the wind blew and beat against that house. Yet it did not fall because it had its foundation on the rock. But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who built his house on sand. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house, and it fell with a great crash." You see, when Jesus was giving this Sermon on the Mount, he was right next to the Sea of Galilee. And here's the thing about the Sea of Galilee. Around the Sea of Galilee in different spots, there's sand. And during the hot summer months, that sand would actually harden, and it would appear to be a hard surface. So people would actually go and build their house on this hard surface. But then a few months later, when rains would just pour down and the water would rise, streams would just kind of bash against these houses, what would happen was the sand would begin to be compromised, the integrity of the sand, and then soon, yard sale, the house would just kind of go out. Until some wise people thought, you know what? Let's build our house deeper, still on the sand, but let's dig down deep until we find that bedrock. So that's what they would do. They would dig down deep until they found bedrock, and then they would build this house on that foundation. And a few months later, when the rains would come, the water would rise, the streams would bash against the house, it would stay. See, there was the foolish builders that would just build on kind of the shallow surface, and there was the wide builders who would build their house on the solid surface. And Jesus isn't teaching a lesson on, on how to build a good lakeside house. No, this analogy means something. You see, we are the houses, and the foundation that we build ourselves on, our lives on, are words. I mean, it says right in verse 24, "Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like the wise man who built his house on the rock." Which leads me to the question, and I think everyone could ask this question to themselves right now. What words are you building your life on? Because there's a lot of words out there. a lot of people are saying a lot of things to us. We look at the news, social media, we say a lot of words to ourselves, and there's a lot of different things. And what happens when we hear these words, we naturally will try to build our lives on these words. And Jesus is saying, like, hold up, hold on. Those words, those things that people are saying, those ideas of how to live your life, yeah, it may look solid on the surface, but dig down a little bit. What happens? When the winds and the waves hit, when the floods rise, what happens? Yard sale. I remember it was a few years ago, I was in a season in my life that was actually really difficult, navigating a lot of things, and I was beginning to get really tired. I didn't know what to do. I felt like I was fighting a million battles and not winning any of them. So I went to my room, I got my Bible, and I was doing what I call Bible roulette. And I'm like, okay, God, I don't know what to do. Help me. Well, that's not helpful. And I would just kind of flip through my Bible, and I'm like, come on, give me something. Give me some inspiration. I need some help, Jesus. And I kept flipping. I'm like, wow, the Bible has a lot of weird things in it. And finally, I landed on a verse in Exodus, the second book of the Bible, Exodus 14:14. And also I want to say, maybe it's not the best thing to play Bible roulette, but hey, sometimes that's where we find ourselves. But I flipped to Exodus 14:14, and it said, "The Lord will fight your battles. You need to only be still." And I thought, man, I need God to fight my battles. And so what I did was I started to listen to that verse when all of these different battles would come, and I'd try to fight them. I'd try to put this fire out here, and I would try to do that. And I thought, like, you know what? This verse says that the Lord will fight my battles. What does that look like? And I started to build my life on this trust that even though I'm supposed to engage, even though I'm supposed to show up to things, what does it look like to ultimately give control and say, God, I actually need you to help? And so I built my life on that verse, and it didn't happen overnight, but over a while, as I began to trust God more with my different situations and battles, I saw that he actually was fighting them. And for me, that was an example of building my life on God's word. Again, the question is, what are you building your life on? What are different areas in your life that, man, are kind of challenging right now? Because life is challenging right now. We've never done this before. We've never gone through a global pandemic. Social distance, like what? And not only that, but there's so many other areas that can be so difficult, personal things that we're navigating through. And so with that, my invitation for you is, now what would it look like to find just a verse? Like open up the Bible, maybe talk to someone, maybe you're in a life group, talk to someone in your life group. If you're not, talk to us. We'd love to help you get connected. But find a verse and see like the relevancy that that verse has on your life and what it looks like to build your life on that. And my challenge is to keep building your life on that. Keep going to that verse. The Lord will fight for you. You only need to be still. What does that verse look like for you? And it's just an invitation for us as we're navigating what it looks like to build our life on God's word, because as Jesus said, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. Let's pray. So, Jesus, with that, man, this season's tough, but it's not a surprise to you. So I just pray that as we're navigating this season, God, that we actually can turn to your word, because your word provides a way out, because you are the way, Jesus. So we just pray that as we're going through these things, God, the different areas, and maybe not everyone's struggling. Often the default is to think like, yeah, everyone's struggling. But I really think because of the situation that we're going through, a lot of people are navigating things that are tough. Wherever we're at, Jesus, I just pray that you can show us what verse that we can kind of cling onto, that we can kind of set as our foundation, and show us what it looks like to build our lives on that, God. Because we want to be like that person who, instead of going to the sand, instead of going to the thing that looks like it's going to hold us, to actually go to the thing that will. Your word, the firm foundation. In your name we pray. Amen.
permission. Our hearts are yours. We want you. We want you. So come and consume, God, all we are. We give you permission. Our hearts are yours. We want you. We want you. Come and consume, God, all we are. We give you permission. Our hearts are yours. We want you. We want you. We love you, and we'll never stop. We can't live without you, Jesus. We love you, and we can't get enough. All this is for you, we love you, and we'll never stop. We can't live without you, Jesus. We love you, and we can't get enough. All this is for you, Jesus.
Well, thanks so much for joining us, Cam. It was great to be with you today.
That's right. And hey, if you're not already connected with us, we would love to hear from you and we would love to connect. So please be sure to visit our website.
All right, have a great day, and we'll see you next week.